Welcome to AudioVerse Listening Library, where every word awakens the power within. As you all know, this channel unfolds a transformative exploration, and right now we are listening to Atomic Habits by James Clear. James Clear dismantles the myth of willpower as the key to lasting change. He explains that people who seem to have high self-control are not superhuman. They simply structure their environment in ways that reduce exposure to temptation. The secret isn't about being stronger. It's about being smarter with your surroundings. Lasting habits don't depend on resisting bad behaviors. They would depend on removing the cues that trigger them. Philosophically, this chapter challenges an ancient assumption that virtue means resisting vice through sheer will. But true mastery, as both Stoic and Zen philosophy teach, lies in effortless control. He who controls his environment controls himself. Instead of fighting impulses, we design conditions that make right action easy and wrong action invisible. Freedom, therefore, is not the absence of temptation. It is the absence of need for resistance. Scientific insight, modern neuroscience, backs this fully. Dopamine is released not during the reward itself, but at the cue that predicts it. Each cue, a sight, a smell, a location, activates neural pathways urging you toward familiar habits. By removing the cue, you deactivate the entire chain. Behavioral scientists call this cue exposure management. It's why people who don't keep junk food at home eat less of it. Not because of strong willpower, but because there's no trigger present to activate the craving loop. When James Clear quit his social media addiction, he didn't just try harder. He literally removed access, logging out, uninstalling apps, and keeping his phone in another room. That physical separation made the habit fade naturally. Think of it like a gardener pulling out the weeds before planting new seeds, not fighting them daily, but removing their roots altogether. Most people chase goals as if achievement itself will change who they are, but this creates an endless loop of striving without becoming. When you think in goal-based terms, you live in a state of temporary motivation. You chase the goal, reach it, or fail to, then your drive fades away. It's like running on a treadmill. Lots of effort, but no real transformation. You might hit your target weight or publish your project once, but if your self-image remains unchanged, the old habits quietly return. Identity-based growth, however, reverses the direction of change. Instead of working towards success, you begin from success, acting as the person you wish to become. The actions no longer require constant discipline because they are now expressions of who you are, not efforts against who you are. A simple but profound truth lies here. Behavior that conflicts with identity cannot last. If you see yourself as someone trying to be fit, you'll always wrestle with inconsistence. But if you see yourself as a healthy person, every decision, food, rest, exercise, naturally aligns. In essence, goals change your results once. Identity changes your results forever. Identity-based habits transform not what you do, but what feels natural to do. While the environment-first approach is powerful, it may oversimplify human complexity. Some triggers come from within, emotions, memories, or stress, not the outside world. However, starting with environmental control builds the momentum needed for deeper emotional mastery later. Next, we uncover a hidden lever even stronger than control, the power of identity. Because once you change who you believe you are, every habit begins to follow automatically. Most people try to change their habits by focusing on what they want to achieve, such as, I want to lose weight, or I want to read more, or it could be like, I want to be successful. But real change doesn't start with goals. It starts with identity. Yes, you heard right. It starts with your own identity, with who you believe you are. When your actions are aligned with your identity, habits become effortless. You no longer force yourself to act. You simply act in accordance with who you already see yourself as. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your beliefs. You'll never consistently act like the person you want to become until you start believing you already are. Have you ever wondered why scrolling your phone feels effortless, but reading a book feels like climbing a hill? It's not about willpower. It's about chemistry. In this chapter, we'll uncover how to rewire your brain's craving system so that good habits become magnetic and irresistible. James Clear dives into the second law of behavior change, make it attractive. He explains that habits are driven by cravings, and cravings are born from dopamine-driven anticipation, not just reward. Every habit, good or bad, follows this neurochemical loop. James Clear uses the example of temptation bundling, a method to associate something you want to do with something you need to do. For example, allowing yourself to watch your favorite Netflix show only while exercising. By doing this, your brain begins to associate pleasure with the desired habit. He emphasizes that it's not the reward itself that motivates us, it's the anticipation of the reward. That's why checking notifications or eating junk food feels addictive, because our brain releases dopamine before the pleasure, urging us to act. Thus, the secret lies in reprogramming your cues. To make positive habits attractive by linking them with things your brain already craves. Philosophically, craving is not inherently bad. It is the energy of life. Every desire, whether noble or trivial, is a spark that moves us toward action. But when desire is unconscious, it enslaves us. When it becomes conscious, it empowers us. As ancient Stoics and Buddhists taught, the wise do not eliminate craving, they redirect it. James Clear's method mirrors this wisdom, to harness desire instead of resisting it. When we attach meaning and pleasure to the right actions, discipline becomes natural, almost joyful. We do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And attraction is the gravity that pulls us there. The ancient Stoics said character is fate. What you repeatedly do becomes who you are, and who you are dictates what you will do. True self-mastery begins when action flows from being. A person who believes they are a writer will write even when uninspired. A person who believes they are healthy will naturally choose nourishing food without debate. So instead of asking, what do I want to achieve? Ask, who do I wish to become? Scientifically, neuroscience reveals that your self-image is like a neural blueprint, the brain's internal map of who you are. Each time you perform an action consistent with your desired identity, you reinforce that circuit. Over time, your brain forms stronger synaptic bonds between your behavior and your self-concept, what psychologists call identity-based conditioning. This is why repeating even small consistent acts, like reading a single page daily, rewires the brain to believe you are a reader. Your habits sculpt your identity, one repetition at a time. Modern neuroscience backs this idea through the dopamine prediction error theory. When the brain anticipates a reward, dopamine spikes, motivating us to act. If the reward matches or exceeds expectation, dopamine reinforces the pathway. If the reward disappoints, dopamine drops, signaling the brain to adjust its future predictions. This creates the habit learning loop. Cue, craving, response, reward, reinforced pattern. By hacking the craving step, we can reshape this loop consciously. Temptation bundling and reinforcement pairing, used in behavioral psychology, work by combining extrinsic pleasure with intrinsic purpose, merging the instant reward with the long-term identity we want to embody. Imagine a young artist named Lila. She dreams of becoming a painter but doubts her talent. Instead of chasing a big exhibition or waiting for inspiration, she commits to painting one small canvas every evening, no matter how she feels. At first, she's just a person painting after work. But soon, her identity shifts. She is an artist. Like a seed quietly growing beneath the soil, her daily act transforms her self-image. The small stroke of a brush becomes a declaration of identity. We can see other examples such as temptation bundling. Listen to your favorite podcast only while cleaning. Motivation ritual. Pair morning meditation with a hot cup of coffee. Environmental pairing. Keep your guitar next to your couch so practice feels inviting. Social reinforcement. Join a group where the behavior you desire is the cultural norm. In all cases, the attraction comes from emotional and sensory cues that make the habit feel rewarding before it even begins. Bad habits often exploit unnatural attraction. Artificial rewards, sugar, social media, gambling hijack our dopamine system with quick hits, leading to long-term dissatisfaction. Good habits, on the other hand, often lack immediate pleasure. Reading, saving money, working out. The difference lies in timing. Bad habits reward now and punish later. Good habits cost now but reward later. James Clear's insight transforms this paradox by making good habits feel good now. Instead of fighting desire, we attach it to meaning. This flips the script. Instead of I have to exercise, we think I get to enjoy my favorite show while exercising. Over time, dopamine starts firing for the action itself, not just the reward. That's how discipline becomes delight. Most people chase goals as if achievement itself will change who they are. But this creates an endless loop of striving without becoming. When you think in goal-based terms, you live in a state of temporary motivation. You chase the goal, reach it, or fail to, then your drive fades away. It's like running on a treadmill. Lots of effort, but no real transformation. You might hit your target weight or publish your project once, but if your self-image remains unchanged, the old habits quietly return. Identity-based growth, however, reverses the direction of change. Instead of working towards success, you begin from success, acting as the person you wish to become. The actions no longer require constant discipline because they are now expressions of who you are, not efforts against who you are. A simple but profound truth lies here. Behavior that conflicts with identity cannot last. If you see yourself as someone trying to be fit, you'll always wrestle with inconsistency. But if you see yourself as a healthy person, every decision, food, rest, exercise, naturally aligns. In essence, goals change your results once. Identity changes your results forever. Identity-based habits transform not what you do, but what feels natural to do. Identity-based habits are powerful, but they can also trap you if you cling too tightly to one version of yourself. Growth sometimes means shedding an old identity to form a new one. So the art is to anchor your identity in principles, not labels. Instead of saying, I am a runner, say, I am someone who honors health. That keeps your identity flexible yet stable. Some critics argue that relying too much on temptation bundling can externalize motivation, making habits dependent on external pleasure. However, Clear's approach is not about replacing internal motivation, but about igniting it. Once the behavior is consistent, the brain's reward pathway naturally transfers pleasure from the external cue to the habit itself. This aligns perfectly with operant conditioning in psychology, where repeated positive pairing builds intrinsic motivation. Philosophical reflection: desire, when guided, becomes devotion. Making habits irresistible is not manipulation, it's self-alignment. You're not tricking your brain, you're teaching it that growth can feel good. The ultimate mastery is when your values and pleasures point in the same direction. So, in conclusion, it can be said that habits depend on craving. Craving depends on attraction. You can make any habit irresistible by linking it with pleasure or meaning. The anticipation of reward, not the reward itself, drives action. Desire, when consciously directed, becomes your greatest ally in change. In the next chapter, we'll uncover how your environment silently shapes your behavior, often more than motivation ever could. You'll see how the spaces you live in can either build your habits or break them. So stay tuned, because transformation isn't just in your mind, it's also in your surroundings.